Welcome to the 10-minute show on OSNetworks. In the show, we introduce and discuss about an operating system in 10 minutes every week. In this episode, we will talk about one of the most exciting operating systems of modern times, which is known for its scalability and performance. It's none other than Sun Solaris. Before we actually get into the details of Sun Solaris, let's take a brief look at its history. In 1975, the first licensed version of BSD Unix was released. Bill Joy, the famous American scientist, was largely responsible for the authorship of BSD. In 1982, Bill Joy left Berkeley, co-founded Sun, and developed Sun OS based on BSD. In 1988, a key event happened in the history of Sun. AT&T purchased a large stake in Sun. In 1993, Sun announced its first version of Solaris, which was based on AT&T System 5 Release 4. BSD was not used in this release. That's the history of Solaris in a nutshell. Now let's take a look at some of the key features that made Sun Solaris very popular. One of its features that made Solaris very scalable is its Spark architecture. Let's hear more on this from our expert Ted. Ted?
Hello Krishna, good afternoon to you and our viewers. So to answer your question, let's start from the meaning of Spark. Spark is an abbreviation and it stands for Spark Processor Architecture. The scalable in Spark comes from the fact that Spark specification allows implementations to scale from small embedded processor to large server processors. There were three major versions of the Spark. The first published Spark processor was the Spark version 7. It was a 32-bit data and address processor. The second release was Spark version 8. This chip implements hardware multiply and division. The third one is Spark version 9. The major changes on this revision are the data and address bits were increased by 16 bits and 16 more floating point registers were added. Krishna?
Thanks, Ted. What's the latest in the Spark architecture?
Well, Krishna, I had a chance to visit the Sun booths at the latest Embedded System conference. And let me read a couple of highlights for you from the brochure I got at the conference. The Ultra Spark T2 processor is the industry's first system on chip, packing the most cores and threads of any general purpose processor available. It has up to 8 Ultra Spark cores, up to 64 total threads, and Sun claims it is the world's first system on a chip. This is Ted for 10 minutes from Sun Microsystem. Back to you, Krishna.
Thanks, Ted. Next important feature is network file system, which was jointly developed by Sun Microsystems and IBM in 1984. Let's hear more on this from our expert Usman. Usman?
Thank you, Krishna. Hello, my name is Osman Jabbar, and today I'll be talking to you about network file system that was developed by Sun Microsystems. The main responsibility of network file system is to provide transparency and remote access of the files via the network. Idea of transparency is the ability to access files without telling if the file has been accessed via local or remotely. Some operating systems that work with network file system are Mac OS, Windows, any Unix-like operating systems, and Novell NetWare. The latest version of network file system is 4.1, which allows separating the metadata of the file system from the location of the file. This also allows stripping the data amongst data servers. Some operations of the network file system. First, the server implements an NFS daemon, which allows to make data generally available to its clients. From there, the server administrator can determine what files to be able to make available. Third, a server administration team will then determine what clients can access the file, and after that, clients can then access the files. And so this is some basic information about network file system. Thank you. Back to you, Krishna.
Thanks, Usman. For any system, UI plays an important role in winning people's heart. To hear more on Solaris UI, let's connect to our expert Himanshu.
Thanks, Krishna. I just had a chat with Jonathan Squaz, the CEO of Sun Microsystems. He said they have come a long way from their initial UI wars You know, right, Sun promoted OpenLook UI while OSF promoted Motif. Motif was clearly a winner. It had obviously very good features. Sun conceded soon enough, and starting from Solaris 2.5.1, they packaged OpenLook and Motif together in common desktop environment and shipped it. But now they are into GNOME, starting with Solaris 9, just like most of the Unix vendors. GNOME is clearly very popular with all the vendors.
Can you please elaborate on GNOME, please?
Krishna, GNOME stands for GNU Network Object Model Environment. It's an open source software for easy to use desktop environment. The key features are it has network-centric architecture, it has intuitive user interface, it has a full suite of mainstream applications like the word processor and web browsers and all those office software. It has extensive support for open standards. The whole source code is out there for everybody to use and build on. It has a component-based environment. Java, like the developers can use a GUI toolkit to develop their applications, as well as Java-based applications can run on GNOME without any modifications. On top of that, they also have an accessibility toolkit which can be used for developing innovative applications for users with disabilities.
Thanks, Himanshu. Let's move on to another key feature of Sun Solaris, dtrace. dtrace is designed to provide operational insights, which allows users to troubleshoot and fine-tune applications. To hear more on this, let's join our expert.
Thank you, Krishna, and welcome to the viewers of OS Channel. I am Srinivas, a senior reporter of OS Channel. I'm here outside the office of Mike Shapiro. Mike Shapiro and his team developed the dtrace. dtrace is a comprehensive dynamic tracing framework developed by Sun Microsystems. It was released under the Common Development and Distribution License framework in the year Jan 2005. It's included in Sun Solaris 10 for troubleshooting applications. Special consideration has been given in order to make it a safe-to-use environment. Detracing programs are written using a new language which is called D programming language. D programming language is a subset of C programming language inclusive of certain functions and variables. It won the 2005 Wall Street Prize. It gives the dtrace has been designed in order to give operational insights, and it allows the users in order to tune and troubleshoot the applications. Over to
Thank
you,
you.
Krishna.
That was great. Now let's move on to another important feature of Solaris operating system, ZFS. ZFS is a file system designed by Sun Microsystems for Solaris OS. To get the details of ZFS, let's talk to our expert.
Thank you, Krishna. Welcome to the viewers of OS Channel. Now, coming to the ZFS. ZFS is a file system designed by Sun Microsystems for Sun Solaris operating system. It is in fact a new file system that fundamentally changes the way file systems are administered. So, the conventional file systems were constructed on top of a single physical device, and a volume manager was introduced to provide the image of a single device, so the file systems would not have to be modified to take the advantage of multiple devices. So this design added another layer of complexity and ultimately prevented certain file system advances, because the file system had no control over the physical replacement of data on the virtualized volumes. So what this ZFS does is that it eliminates the volume management altogether. Instead of creating this virtualized volumes, ZFS aggregates devices into a storage pool, so that this storage pool describes the characteristics of storage and acts as an arbitrary data store from which file system can be created. So you no longer need to determine the file size of a system, the size of a file system, since it grows automatically within the storage space allocated in the pool.
Thank you. Before we end the show, here are some important facts about Sun Microsystems. Do you know that Sun and Apple tried to collaborate in the past 5 times, but it never happened? Are you aware that Vinod Khosla has to persuade Scott McKinley a lot to start Sun Microsystems? Scott was not ready to give up his well-paying job to start a company, but they have joined hands together and the rest is history. Thank you. That's all we have for Solaris in 10 minutes. Next week we'll come up with another operating system, Nachos. Until then, goodbye. 10 minutes.